Okay, it is 6 o'clock. I am going to call this meeting on Tuesday, January 10th into session. We're going to please start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll follow that with a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing while we take a moment of silence and think about those who have gone before us. Thank you. Okay, roll call please. Judy?
Deputy Ryan.
Here.
Trustee Alter. Trustee Alter.
Roll call.
Oh, come here.
Trustee Shetting.
Here.
Trustee Decker.
Here.
Trustee O'Malley.
Here.
Mayor.
I am present. Okay, and missing is Trustee Megan Walreed, also present Village Attorney Andrew Gilchrist, and Village Environmental Attorney Dave Engel. Thank you guys for being here. First item is we have a public hearing. I need a motion to open the public hearing, correct? Yes, I need a motion to open a public hearing on local law number 5 of 2022, a local law authorizing the issuance of temporary permits for outdoor dining and for sidewalk sales displays.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Needs a second?
Second.
All right. We are in public hearing. Just as a point of review, this is the second version of this local law that came up. This was something we had worked on a while, had our first presentation this a while back, realized we wanted to make some changes. Andy went back and did some changes. Do Andy or any of the trustees want to summarize this? This has been up on our website for a bit too. This will allow us to, well, as it says, issue temporary permits for outdoor dining for sidewalk sale displays, and sets up a lot of systems around that, so it's done in a suitable way. Andy, do you want to summarize on the items, or Dan, or anyone?
I think the only difference from the last one is just the garbage cleanup, the requirement to pick up after yourself.
Right, it
Is
will
that what our mom said?
require garbage or waste receptacles. It should be shown on your plan that gets reviewed by the building department when they're reviewing the permit application and to issue the permits. So it does require periodic cleaning during the course of the day, and certainly emptying the trash receptacles when the business is closed daily,
Yeah.
just for sanitation.
So this was something that came out of a desire from some of our local businesses to do outdoor dining with support of the village board. At this point, since we have a public hearing, if anybody has any questions or wants to speak up for or against regarding this, now is the time. And we'll have a time later for people to be heard about any other business, but this one is specific to this proposed local law. So I'll open up the floor. Would anyone like to speak about this? All right, hearing none, we will move on with our business, but we will continue to have the public hearing open, and I'll have another chance later to speak regarding this. All right, I have a few announcements as they are on the agenda. Number one, we're still looking for one more person for each board. Deb, I know you gave us a name, and I had given that to Marie, and of course Marie is not here and will be out, but we will follow up with that individual.
Number again.
That would be good to probably give it to Denise and Judy.
Okay.
So that would be great. Second item, Toys for Joys 2022 was an enormous success. Over 60 families in the community were served through gifts and donations from so many people in the community and beyond. So we really want to thank, and of course it's really unfortunate that Marie O'Neill, our village clerk, is not here. She had a little bit of an accident, and she'll be out for a little bit of time, and obviously our thoughts and prayers are with her for a speedy recovery. But we wanted to thank her for taking this on outside of her own village duties, just to take this on, and also Mary Jo for assisting with a lot of the organization on this. And Marie wanted to specifically thank everyone who donated from near and far, and also specifically she wanted to have a shout out to Carista Castiglione and Giuseppe's, who put boxes at their restaurant to cash donations, and were able to purchase bikes for a few families. So that was awesome. We have some election information. The next village elections will be held on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, from noon to 9 p.m. at the Ann Bort Municipal Building. The following seats are up: 2 trustee seats that are a 2-year term. We have 1 trustee seat that is at a 1-year term, and 1 mayor seat for a 2-year term. January 3rd, as we discussed in the previous meetings, was the first date individuals could start gathering signatures. The earliest the petitions can be filed, and that's with the village clerk or deputy clerk, at the municipal building, is February 7th, and the last day they can be filed is February 14th at 3:30 p.m. That is how you get your name on the ballots. Of course, write-ins are always possible as well. My third announcement, which I will circle back to, is we're going to have a special meeting on Tuesday, January 24th, but I'll talk more about that in the coming updates. We did have a request from the St. Patrick's Day Committee. I would want to share that letter, which is this one. Mayor and Board, we'd like to thank you for your continued support of the annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. This will be our 32nd St. Patrick's Parade. We will step off from Wood Park at 1 p.m. on Saturday, March 11th. I'd like to request from the village any funds that may be available to be used to help offset the cost of the parade. These costs increase every year, and last year's cost was just over $7,000. Money was raised from fundraisers put on throughout the year and donations from our supporters. We look forward to having you join us at the parade on March 11th, and this is from the St. Patrick's Day Committee, which of course Kevin is a part of, and Marie's a part of, and everyone else there. We have our normal amount that we budgeted for supporting the parade, and Denise, have we given that to them yet?
It's 1,000, no.
Okay, so we have our standard 1,000 that we give them each year, so I would say talk to Marie or Kevin and see when they need it, and we'll get that out to them. Trustees, I'm looking for a motion to authorize the use of the Village in Wood Park on Saturday, March 11th for the parade.
Second.
Thank you, Bobby Ryan and Deb. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed or abstentions? Kevin's abstaining because he's on the committee. Understood. All right, thank you. Let me go back to our meeting. And before we get into the mayor announcements, I wanted to take a personal thank you to the board, village employees, for all of the condolences and ways they reached out when my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, Diane Hart, passed. The flowers that the village sent were right over her casket on the wake, and it was just really appreciated, so thank you. I wrote that out so I wouldn't have to be emotional, and I forgot to read it, so thank you guys. Okay, we have a whole slew of updates. There's been a lot of stuff that has been in the works over the past many months, and it just happens that a lot of this is aligned right now, which is why we have a 5-page agenda. The first update is the DPW superintendent update. Our current superintendent, Neil Stoll, seen over in the corner over there by the light switch, first one to exit when the meeting's over, because he's right by the door, is retiring on January 26th. He was gracious enough to give us a heads up and set a date. He started giving us that heads up about 4 years ago, but he solidified it a couple months back, and it allowed us to discuss things internally and talk to some folks. And tonight, later in the meeting, we are going to be hopefully appointing a new DPW superintendent, and we are looking to appoint Ken Holbrook, seated next to Neil, who's currently our wastewater treatment plant operator, who has quite a bit of experience in the DPW, as our new DPW superintendent. He will serve as DPW superintendent and continue to oversee the wastewater treatment plant, while the village board will begin to look for and train up a future wastewater treatment plant employee sometime in the near future. So, and I'll have a little bit more on that special meeting in Neil, and we'll be circling back to Neil, but of course thank you for your 35 plus years of service. I won't tell you how old I was when I started working for the village. Seats over there. It was not double digits. All right. Number 2, After several discussions and meetings, the UPSEU, which is the Police Officers Union, and the village are in agreement with negotiations for the UPSEU new contract. The previous contract ran from June of 2019, which is the start of our fiscal year, to May of 2022. The current contract negotiations already ratified by the members of the UPSEU will be retroactively approved, ideally tonight, and it will be retroactive to June of 2022. So we will consider that tonight, and it has the full support of myself and Deputy Mayor Ryan, who was extremely wonderful and helpful to be in with those meetings and negotiations. And of course, our thanks to our Labor Council, Elaine Gold, for all of the help and work on that. That will be that's on the agenda to be discussed later, and in a situation like this, because it would be related to personnel, if the board wants to step out into executive session to discuss that, we would just do that ourselves. Number 3, village attorney search update. Andy had announced to us several months ago that he was looking to step down, but was gracious to stay on until we have a replacement found. We are in the middle of the interview process, and our final interviews will be conducted later this week. And the village board will be making the appointment official in a future special meeting in January. So again, as we look towards that special meeting, we'll be thanking Andy for his years of service as well to the village. Number 4 and number 5 I'm going to briefly just highlight, and then I'm going to pass it off to the village's environmental attorney Dave Engel to give a more detailed update, but these are some important items, some of which we have all been following and waiting for, and others we really don't follow because how exciting is the landfill, but they're still exceedingly important things that we have had a lot of attention on. So first off, regarding the new water source, we remember a while back DEC issued its record of decision, which mandated that the companies would install and create a new water source, a couple new wells in the direction of the school, and pipe those into the water treatment plants. The village is very close to finalizing the agreement with the companies that would speak to the design and creation of the new water source. Additionally, the village, its environmental engineer, and our water, sewer, and DPW departments had a recent meeting, a successful first meeting, I'll say first because I would expect many, with members and engineers from Honeywell and Saint-Gobain Performance Plastics to support the planning and design initiatives for the implementation of the ROD. And of course, the landfill leachate, we have a brief update on the situation there and the repairs that the village needs to undertake are part of the agenda. So, Mr. Engel, I will pass it on to you to discuss it further.
You want me to talk from here, or do you want me to?
You're fine to talk.
Okay, fine. Here's what's going on with respect to getting the new water source up and running. As indicated by the mayor, we have been in discussions with the companies, Saint-Gobain and Honeywell. Those discussions have been going on now for, I guess I could say, the better part of a year, actually.
Yeah.
Let's recall the department issued its record of decision in December, the first week of December of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So we're now fully 13 months out from the issuance of that decision. And in the few months that followed, there was a little bit of indecision from the companies as how they would respond to it. The record of decision basically called for the development of new wells south of the village, upgrading it from the existing wells, and then the construction of a water pipeline from the new wells. That pipeline was going to go down along Route 22, across the Route 22 bridge, and then sort of make a U-E and go back over to the location of the existing water plant. We started having discussions with the companies, I would say, in the spring in earnest, and the original agreement that the company sent to us, frankly, was not one that we could accept. It was really a one-sided agreement, and we then engaged in a process of give and take over the balance of the year. And by the latter part of the summer, it was reasonably apparent to us that, first of all, the companies were interested in executing the ROD, that they were not going to refuse to do it. There are risks to responsible parties when they basically turn down the opportunity to implement a remedy, because then it gets thrown back to the state. And the tricky part of all of this is that essentially this is a remedy which calls for a major modification to the village's infrastructure. A new water source, new water pipelines, and all of that goes with that. Plus, there was a recognition in the ROD that the existing GAC filters would have to remain in place and be operating even with the new water source online, although the new water source looks to be free of PFAS chemicals. But there is a risk in any new source this close to the village of Hoosick Falls. And the ROD also called for the maintenance of existing well 7, which has been the village's principal water supply, but the most highly contaminated of the 2 wells the village has available to it, that well would be maintained as a backup source for the village, which was another reason why the GAC filters had to remain in place. We've gone through negotiations. We have a draft agreement with the companies. I had hoped that by this evening, we could have had this agreement available for public review and comment. And I had also hoped by this evening that the board would be in a position under which it could endorse the agreement. But this is not just a bilateral transaction between us and the companies. There's a sort of a trilateral aspect to this, and that is the Department of Environmental Conservation has to execute its own agreement or a consent order with the companies that will be sort of the overall governing document that will manage and control the process by which the ROD is implemented. To be direct about it, and I'm not here to cast blame, but as I discussed in the SIPWIG meeting a few weeks ago, we're still waiting on DEC to do its thing and to actually still propose a consent order, or what we've been told is a modification to the prior consent order with the companies, to the companies. And we had anticipated that that would have occurred months ago. It hasn't happened. We've been getting assurances that it will happen. We all seem to have an understanding of what's going to be in it. My expectation is that that order will finally be presented to the companies before the end of this month, based on the representations that have been made to me by DEC's management, and also what has been expressed to us as the willingness of the companies to engage in the process. I expect that all of this is going to be wrapped up, I hope, before the end of February. And at that time, there will be a consent order and an agreement that we will bring back to the village board for its review and approval, and there will be an opportunity for the public to look at it. This is a multi-million-dollar project. The agreement that we expect to cut with the companies will have the companies bearing all the costs. They'll bear the costs for the village's technical people to review the entirety of the project. And after that, once the project is being implemented, there will be a process under which the company's experts will analyze what the long-term cost implications are of this major addition and modification to the village's municipal infrastructure. And based on that analysis and the village's review of that analysis with our experts and our own experts' analysis, the agreement calls for the companies and the village's representatives then to hopefully negotiate a payment agreement under which the long-term costs will be covered by the companies, in essence, in perpetuity, so that this does not become something that the village water users or taxpayers bear the responsibility for. That's going to be a process. It's a process to follow this initial agreement, but we anticipate that it's going to take maybe a year, year and a half to step through that process, because it's going to be to some extent dependent upon some of the technical considerations that go along with the whole thing, such as, you know, the specifications on the pipes, the pumps, the expected useful life of all that infrastructure, and things of that sort. So, that's where that stands.
Dave, can I interject before you go to landfill?
Sure.
I've had a lot of people ask about this, so I just wanted to highlight a couple key things that Dave stated. A lot of people were confused that DEC issued the ROD, so why hasn't it happened yet? And the simple version is it's not that simple. It's very complicated. We had to find out if the companies were going to fight it or if they were going to work with DEC and work with the village. This agreement that that we're hoping to be putting out for public to review and vote on as soon as we can is a big deal, and it's part of us agreeing with the companies, but we also are waiting on the state to have their agreement with the companies, so all of this can work together. And part of this agreement is us proactively making sure that not just our employees and our environmental engineering consultants having a voice in it, but that those costs for that are covered so that the village is not spending on that. And that's a really big part of this. And once we have this figured out and the state finishes the things off and we're working toward the design and implementation of all this new infrastructure, as Dave said, then it's the final discussions about sort of our final step with closing this off, and then we're full speed ahead into the future.
One of the things I neglected to mention, and I think it's important to point out, is that the technical work largely being led at by the impetus coming from Honeywell and their consultants has already begun with field investigations. And there were field investigations conducted this winter, if you can call this winter, but it's those included doing test borings on either side of the river. I mentioned earlier that the original plan endorsed by DEC had the water line coming along Route 22 and then crossing at the Route 22 bridge, and it was literally going to be hanging off the bridge. And that was something which a lot of us questioned, including the companies and our own technical experts. You look at the bridge, and typically a bridge like that has let's say a reasonably finite useful life, and at some point that bridge is going to have to be replaced, and it certainly is not the best thing to have a water line hanging off the bridge. And so the company's people and our people thought, well, probably a better idea is to put it under the river, which would be a higher initial capital cost, and that was what the test borings were about. And it looks completely feasible to put the water lines under the Hoosick River. There will be an additional expense for that river crossing. On the other hand, it does cut out some pipeline, so it may in the end be a wash, but that is a rather crucial change from what DEC originally proposed. And the feedback we've received from DEC technical staff is that they think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So.
And it's really good that Honeywell has already started to do this, and that we have already started to meet with them. And it wasn't just our consultant. A lot of our department heads were like, "This would be a more sensible approach to this."
Yeah.
So unlike back in 2016 and 2017, when the GAC room was being created, when there was a much different climate, and we were in a much more rush to get things done, we're having an active role in having in stating our opinions and our thoughts, especially because in the long term we'll be the ones operating and maintaining this. So even though it's been a long process to get to this point, these are important steps, and I just want to make sure to highlight those.
Yeah, there has developed, I think, a very useful collegial relationship between our technical experts at Sterling and the company's experts, and I think that's going to turn out to be quite productive. Our experts' costs will be covered by the companies. They've agreed to do that. Once the agreement is in place, they'll be funding an escrow account, and there's a process by which that escrow account can be replenished should the need arise. So that's how that will proceed. And with that, I'll turn to the landfill.
Just a couple questions, Dave.
Sure.
Is there anything that's gonna be discussed in executive session tonight on this, or is this?
I don't see any need for executive session discussion of this tonight, but
Is there, so, just a couple questions for you, is there any movement on, how do I put this nicely? Getting the necessary easements or access to the particular parcel that's needed for the water? Or is that still up in the air?
let's put it this way, that is a matter that is in process. It is not a matter that we're prepared to discuss in, let's say, open session right now. Part of that process is apparently going very easily, and part of it isn't.
There was some survey work going on in the area this morning,
Yeah,
down in those 2 sites. I did
Yes.
see that.
Yep.
so,
So, just one more point I make about the water line hanging off the bridge. If anybody remembers when the hurricane came, if memory serves me correct, when Hurricane Irene came through, I believe Bennington's water source ran under a bridge, and the bridge got washed out along with the water source for Bennington for what, 2 weeks? 3 weeks? It was quite a nightmare, so I bet they were hoping, they were wishing that their water line ran under the bridge. The other thing is there any movement on getting additional monies from the company based on the nuisance or anything like that that we can use to either do a community improvement or reduce the bond on the water and sewer?
what's going to happen is, we are going to get through this, we're gonna get this agreement in place, and what will follow will be discussions about how much money the companies are gonna have to pay the village, and how those payments get made. I've had discussions with the company's counsel about that, that's all I'll say about that. I'd rather not get into the details of that right now.
It's interesting that you brought up the hurricane because the 2 fields that have been mentioned in the ROD were fields that flooded in that same hurricane.
Yeah,
So
like
one of the
old
things
flooding.
that will have to happen is just like they have the wells over here, they're built up quite a bit to get to the top of the well where it is so situations like that don't happen.
I think they went, God, almost a month without water, they're bringing in tanker trucks and.
That was a
Plus,
crazy
if it's something
storm.
that you can see, if it's not under the river and it's something you can see, we're gonna be, anybody drives over that bridge is gonna be reminded of it.
Oh yeah.
TFOAs, and we don't want them.
Landfill leachate.
Speaking of TFOA and pipes, we could talk about the landfill.
The quick background is the village closed a landfill back in the early 90s. The landfill exists in the town of Hoosick, but it's the village landfill. It is currently a Superfund site, and the village of Hoosick Falls, along with Honeywell, has a consent order with the state. So that's the setting
Yeah.
for all this.
The primary actor on undertaking what's called the remedial investigation and feasibility study, and eventually the remediation of the landfill, is Honeywell. And, you know, to date, I couldn't even hazard a guess with any degree of confidence, but Honeywell has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this project so far. The one thing that the village has responsibility for is the leachate collection system. And the reason why the village has responsibility for that under the, say, division of tasks between us and the company is that whether the landfill was contaminated or not with PFOA, the village as the owner-operator of the landfill, just as a landfill, is responsible for operating the leachate collection system and making sure the leachate is collected properly and then conveyed to wherever it's going to go, which in this case, and up to this point in history, has in theory been the sewage treatment plant. The problem is that leachate collection system failed, what, 2-3 years ago?
Kenny, you remember about 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, it was a little longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at that time, when it failed, if you think of, I don't know how many people in the room are familiar with the geography over there, but the landfill kind of slopes down in the direction of the river, and between the toe of the landfill and the river is the rail line.
Yep.
And I think it is the southwest corner of the landfill, if I'm not mistaken, is where the leachate collection.
Yes.
Thank you. And when that thing failed, all this leachate which has about 2,000 parts per trillion of PFOA in it. But even if it had no PFOA in it, it's pretty,
Nasty.
it's gross, it's sort of an orange spooge, that's a technical term. And it was basically just sort of leaking out at the toe of the landfill over there, and then following, you know, the geography, it was eventually finding its way through the river, but not before it left sort of a stain on the ground. So we had to repair the leachate system, and the board did a financing in order to undertake that process. And it involved replacing the old pumps there, putting in new pumps, putting in a new line, and we've had one problem and complication after another. The initial pump that went in failed. The idea was to put in 2 pumps. Sterling has been managing the project, and the contractor who's been doing the construction is Labella. And we have now, I think, received delivery, 2 or 3 times of the wrong pumps,
Yeah, I think the next one is scheduled for the end of this month,
which hopefully will be the right pumps.
possibly.
I have no confidence in that. I mean, they literally have been sending the wrong pumps, and they've arrived, and I guess people open the box and go, hey, we can't use this. Meanwhile, on the rail the line, the sewer line, goes under the railroad, and then it goes down to the sewage treatment plant. Apparently, some sort of leak or break in that line has occurred, and the stuff is now, let's say, bubbling out of the ground at a different location. And that is something that demands attention, and we're trying to work that out. There's gonna be a resolution or a motion later today in this meeting to fund that. We have been dealing with the railroad. The railroad, which at one time was Pan Am and owned essentially as Pan Am, was sold recently, and it is now, strangely enough, has the name Pan Am Southern LLC. I'm not sure where the Southern comes from, except to note that this is an LLC that is jointly owned as a joint venture between Norfolk Southern and CSX, which is a big rail conglomerate company. And I spoke to their attorney yesterday, because we have to work out the access to the rail property. And he was getting ready to go on vacation and directed me to some computer portal where you go on and you go through all this stuff. And I basically farmed that out over to Sterling. And this afternoon I heard back from Sterling, and it was like, oh yeah, we can get access, but it looks like they're gonna want several $1,000s. So that's where we are right now.
Is there any chance that that leak was caused by the railroad's excavation in that area?
You know, we don't know. I would like to believe that's the case.
Because the course main is pretty new, what, 3, 4 years old?
Yeah.
That was part of the sewer project, fixing that force main. I mean, not just the main, but that junction point going under the track was.
We as the village replaced it, probably almost 10 years ago, come up through there. Where it's broken is where we had replaced it
Okay.
10 years ago, probably.
Where does it go under the tracks, right in that area, across from that area where it's leaking?
Nope, it goes under the tracks, across the parking lot some more, just past the parking lot. The new parking lot we put in down there, just past that, it goes up under the tracks.
Any chance that big derailment have anything to do with causing this? When was that?
Yeah, no, I mean, this just started leaking, we noticed it, what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Maybe a month ago?
It's a complication on what was already a difficult situation because of the difficulties in getting this pump situation finally resolved.
Yeah.
And what Labella keeps telling us is, first of all, Labella, who's a highly credible company, when I first met with their guys out in the field, and this has to be a year and a half ago now, there was a very earnest young man who was in charge, and I was quite impressed with him. And I remember at the time, Mark Millspaw was with me, and a few days later, I remarked to Mr. Millspaw, gee, it looks like this thing's in good hands. And then about a week later, he calls me up and says, oh, that guy left the company, which of course he did. You know, it's, a lot of this delay, I think, is an artifact of the era we live in terms of getting, you know, deliverables on time, people paying attention to what they're delivering. This whole business with the pumps is just been highly frustrating. This latest business with the break in the line, you know, I wish I had evidence so that I could say it's the railroad's fault. But right now, the most important thing is just to fix it, and we can assess blame later on. I am gonna go back to DEC, and I'm going to raise with them this issue of the railroad holding us up to get site access, because the department, I believe, has some authority under Superfund to compel, you know, property owners to allow site access. And I will see if the department will help us out there.
So this is on the agenda for later in the meeting. This is the basically the explanation of what would happen, and one of the things that's important to note is because this is leachate that has contaminants, normal workers can't touch it. You have to have special training to handle that, and our guys are very glad to not have that training, so they don't have to worry about that. But this is gonna be for about $3,800 is what they're estimating is the task, and this is what we're gonna be voting for to give me the authorization to approve. So, just to button that one up, but the landfill has been a long thing, and it's another thing that requires a lot of attention and is very boring to hear about, no one really likes to follow up, but it is what it is, so.
Yeah.
This is for, on top of what you pay for the motors?
Yes, this is an additional cost.
It's,
So,
you know, it's a difficult situation, as I noted, in terms of the cost that the railroad apparently wants in order to give us site access. And they have all sorts of rationalizations, by the way, for this, including the need to put a signalman out there and maybe delay rail traffic and divert rail traffic. I mean, you can imagine the kinds of, you know, rationalizations they can generate. But we don't have any hard evidence necessarily that this break has anything to do with the railroad, except for perhaps normal wear and tear when you have like going under a railroad track that carries a lot of weight.
Well, they really did a lot of major excavation
Oh,
in the
yeah.
area,
Yeah.
so it wasn't really day-to-day wear and tear, it was more a major excavation where they let sorry, no, they had a new piece of track right and next to it.
Oh, yeah, and by the way, there's reason to believe that the work they did with the second track through there, which involved, among other things, burying some of the old monitoring wells that had been placed down gradient from the landfill.
Dumping earth into the Ferris Pond.
Into
which
the
I
pond.
I sent an email to DEC, the DEC officer for this area, and he never responded.
Well, I can top that. I was out there with DEC personnel, and I was there with Dale Denoyer, who's Honeywell's attorney on this. And both Dale and I are former directors of enforcement at DEC. And we pointed the DEC people to what the railroad company was doing. They were actually constructing when we were out there. And we said, what's going on here? Look, they're dumping, they're going over the top of the monitoring wells. They're dumping stuff in what looks like a wetland. And these were people from DEC's hazardous waste program. And their response was, that's not our program area.
Yeah, anybody else, I think we came up with, it was a cross country club where the guy had to put up barriers to keep the erosion and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. But they observed none of those things. Now, the railroad was under different ownership there at that
Yeah.
time. And this is all a very tangled web, you know, and we're trying to figure out the easiest and cheapest way to resolve the problem. If I don't get any satisfaction or assistance from DEC, recall that my costs on this, my legal costs on this, and a fair amount of Sterling's work, although not all of it, some of it at least, has been covered by Hartford Insurance.
Yeah.
And, you know, I will take a look at that and I will reach out to Hartford and see if they can throw some money at this, if all else fails.
Yeah, I think we've had plenty of experience with the break down on the tracks that we no longer use, and then we had the one on the Hoosick Street Neal that had to go under, it cost us hundreds of dollars per hour
Yeah.
for a railroad employee to be there and watch the operation.
So
Yeah,
this leak now that we have is, it's probably over 100 feet away from the tracks. That's in the roadway where they use to go down to, you know, to get to their sites or whatever. That's the only thing that could have done it. I mean, we can't prove it, but, and my thing is, the village has the right of way to repair a line. I mean, if it was a water line down there spraying up out of the ground, would we not be able to go in there legally and repair it?
Well, yeah, but it's still on their property at this point.
But is
And and, you know, without getting down to the weeds on this, we're trying to find what right-of-way easement type rights the village has and has recorded. And we haven't found those yet.
okay, because I would assume there'd be some sort of right of way because we have to have access to the leachate pump station.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't wanna get into what sounds like a law school discussion of easements by prescription and all the rest of this stuff, which Gilchrist would have remembered from law school. Because he's both younger and smarter than me, and I only know that those concepts exist at this point in my life.
Okay.
But, you know, we're gonna try to get this thing resolved as quickly and as painlessly as possible. But when I spoke to Denoyer, who, as I say, represents Honeywell, I said, look, you guys did your RIFS, you put in all sorts of monitoring wells, and he emailed back and said, yeah, we had to pay the railroad. And we paid the railroad for access, and then we had to pay something on top of that, so their signal man could be out there to ensure that nobody, you know, got hit by a train when they were working or something. You know, so the railroads, I spoke to people who are familiar with these things, they're in the business of moving freight, but they're primarily in the business of making money, and they take every opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Alright, thank you, Dave.
Am I free to go?
Yeah, absolutely.
They
Unless-
wanna just jump
We
and
could,
tack on that motion
Sure,
for Dave's here.
sure, we're gonna jump ahead to the new business item just while Dave is here in case anybody has questions. This is near the end, it is specifically, I gotta find it, I think it's on page 5.
It's on page 4.
Oh, page 4 middle, landfill leachate. So this is the document that came from Labella that explains the situation that Mark Nospoff, Sterling Environmental, has already reviewed. And this is asking for this work to be done here, this is a description of the work. And the total cost to mobilize, excavate, evaluate, and then repair the force main. They're estimating after they figure in all of the time and folks involved is $3,836. And all the other insurance stuff. So I am looking for a motion to authorize myself, the mayor, to execute this agreement with Labella for repair work to be done at the landfill leachate's force main totaling an estimated $3,836.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bobby. Need a second? Thank you, Dan. Any further discussion? I know when we got the money to handle landfill stuff, Denise, we went a little bit more on that bond in case things like this came up. So we should still have additional funds in there, although probably not that much. Additionally, apart from what we had initially planned for.
Yeah, we took the 161,650, which is gone, and actually 1,500 negative of that, so we have approximately $9,000 left of the company's money, which they would put in.
Okay, one of the things I wanted to do, as I was thinking about it, is go through all of the Sterling invoices and make sure that any ones that would be related to work over at the, regarding the record of decision and the water implementation is separated out from the others, but just so it doesn't get confused with that, cause we're so involved, but, okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye, opposed or abstentions? Alright, motion carries, that piece is done. Thank you, Dave.
I can go home.
You can go home. Or you can stay, cause these are exciting meetings. Alright, number 6.
So I've noticed.
Thank you, Dave.
Is that what you asked the cops when you're trying
Anybody
to find
wants to
out?
leave with me, feel free to follow me.
Alright, number 6, we have a bond resolution. The village has agreed to a settlement regarding our disputed bills with Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth Law Firm related to PFOA matters, where the village and the Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth firm worked until April of 2017. The village is looking to move forward tonight on a bond resolution to finance the settlement amount. Andy, can I turn it over to you to explain just generically how the bond resolution process works and
Sure, so tonight what's being proposed is the resolution to authorize the financing. If approved, then that will be published, and there's a 20-day period for any challenge, basically procedural challenge. This is called the estoppel period, and once that period ends, and presuming no challenge is commenced, that will allow the village to move forward and actually close on the financing to address the settlement with Fitzgerald Morris.
thank you. And this will be one of the main things that we have to plan and budget for in our upcoming budget, which I know the trustees have already had a lot of conversations and communications about, so that's coming in our next season.
Will this be coming, this bond be on the water fund, or?
Like,
Yes,
the answer is yes.
yes.
I'm sorry, not behind it.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, yeah.
and after this step is done, then Denise will be in touch with banks to see what we can set up, and that'll be a future meeting. Alright, number 7, the Restore New York grant, the village continues to work with Jason Von Guinness and Rensselaer County, on a grant opportunity to bring the property located at 1 Center Street, back into a viable building. We had a successful public hearing, about a week ago, and tonight, it probably has already happened, but the Rensselaer County Legislature is set to complete the foreclosure process and sign over the ownership of the property to Jason. They had to wait until the foreclosure period got to its very end, and the people who previously owned it had the last opportunity to act on their responsibility, which of course they haven't for years, and they did not. So, it should have been signed over to Jason Von Guinness tonight by an act by the legislature.
Right, how that works is the county legislature, rather than putting the property out for auction,
Yeah,
can authorize the sale directly to an individual, but it needs to be approved by the county legislature, and that's presumably happening this evening.
yeah, we had a lot of communications this week with the county attorney. I spoke to Rich Chris, Jason spoke to CJ Kempf, and we got confirmation of the resolution. It was on the agenda, so it should probably has already passed based on how they work, because they're meeting at the same time we are.
Right.
This grant application is has to be in by Friday, January 27th, and this is a grant application. Even though it's for Jason Von Guinness and the property he owns, the municipality has to be the lead on this, and we are very glad to do that. So tonight we have a resolution that will state the village's support, and it's one of the requirements in the grant application, and we'll be working with them to get that in. And one other thing, the resolution also includes the authority for me to sign off on any documents I need to, so we don't have to have another meeting. We'll just be done and set for that. What am I doing here? I'm hitting the wrong button. Alright, and finally, the special meeting that we are intending to have 2 weeks from today on January 24th, in this location. We will say goodbye to our current village attorney, Andrew Gilchrist, and as we officially hire our new attorney, which we'll be deciding on in the coming days. And we will bid a fond farewell to the DPW Superintendent Neil Stoll and celebrate his 35 years of experience working for the village as he rides off into the sunset in his camper, heading cross country to see his grandkids, which is fantastic. So that is the slew of mayor updates, which is basically just a lot of all the stuff that we've been working on for the past many months coming together. Alright, this is our normal people to be heard section, when you can speak to the board on any concern or ask a question. When you're called upon, please begin with your full name and street address, which is standard practice. Share or speak to what you'd like to discuss. A reminder that we record all of our board meetings on audio. I have an iPad recordings on it. And eventually, as I'm getting the new website up and running, we'll have those up on the YouTube page. And those are accessible by request at any point. Just out of curiosity, how many people would like to speak tonight? One.
No high school students?
The floor is yours, sir.
Name is Donald Smith. I live on 41 River Road, Amherst. I spoke to the state police today and one of their officers. River Road has got to be a disaster. It's very dangerous. I've been complaining about it, but we don't seem to see any police officers over there. They gotta park. I mean, they're doing 50 miles an hour. There's no sidewalks, and we have to walk. You know, that's why I told the troopers, they gotta do something, but it ain't up to them. It's up to you guys. I mean, I complained about this for many years, and I can't get nowhere. And now it's even worse. From, let's see, 7 o'clock in the morning till 8:30 when school was in session, when these either school teachers or what, they're flying. I mean, 50 miles an hour. I used to go take a walk. We wait till 9 o'clock now. Everybody says, how come we don't see you? I said, we have to walk later. But and we used to come walk around the village, come down River Street, then go down. We cut that out because people will not move over for us. And here you got a, what, daycare center right there,
Yep.
you know, and all that, but it's dangerous. And then the evenings, the same thing. From 2:30 on. I mean, I told the officer today, I says, that's all you have to do is park there and park constantly for a while, then they'll know that you're watching the road. You know,
Okay.
I mean, they won't even slow down and move over for us. And there's a lot of joggers, there's a couple in the morning, about 6 o'clock, and I says, they're crazy.
Okay.
You know, it's very, I mean, it's bad. I
Alright.
thought it was bad other years, but it's getting worse and worse.
Alright, thank you. We have been on, asking for police to get more involved in parking tickets and some speeding things in the village. And I have heard from the court that they have been doing that, so we just
Good.
need to get them stationed over there at those key times in the morning, and we will do that, and
I mean, if they did it for a while, then they know to be, you know, the road's being wide. I mean, that's a dangerous road. I don't know
Yep.
if you,
Yep.
I mean, there's curves and.
we'll start getting people over there regularly, and
You're
Well-
doing 50,
Yeah.
and 30 miles home. 50 and 60, and I mean, a couple months ago, there was a school bus that was turning up Martin Street.
mhm.
And a car passed.
And a car passed
That's a
through.
school bus. I don't know
That's a
who
school bus.
I said, what is the matter with people?
That whenever I see that, that drives me
That's
crazy.
scary.
That
It
is
scares me.
awful, awful.
I'm just afraid it's gonna be a serious accident. They're gonna be going through the
Somebody's house.
house.
Yeah.
Any chance, I think it's a sheriff deal, but we can get one of those, speed check machines like we had over by the cemetery, I'm sure we can contact them. I think that would be huge.
That would be a deterrent, that's for sure.
Yeah, let's act on that, let's make that a priority over the next month or so. Hopefully in a month, we'll, be hearing from you that you've seen some improvement and some people have been taking it over
I
there.
mean, it's scary for me. I mean, there's one guy, he walks, he's an older guy. He walks about 6 o'clock in the morning, and well, he's got lights on, but I watch cars just fly right by the poor guy. Then there's a girl, I think she's a nurse from Rivers. She jogged there at that time.
Yeah,
But even though they got lights on, they still
zip by.
don't even slow down.
We'll get on that,
That'd be good.
thank you.
Well,
Okay, done.
Anything else? Alright, thank you guys. Alright, unless there's anyone else who wanted to speak? Come on, high school students, you know you want to. Alright, We're gonna move on to reports.
Rob, do you wanna
Did I?
close the public hearing?
I do have that later, but I can certainly close that now, it's certainly fine.
First,
Last chance to speak on the proposed introductory local law. Alright, hearing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion?
Second.
Sorry, Dan. Apparently this doesn't work, the voices are. Alright, Deb and Bobby. Further discussion? All in favor of closing?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstentions? Alright, carries. Public hearing is closed. We have the option to act on that later. It'll come in the new business agenda. Pass that law. Alright, police report.
I don't have anything unless somebody has something for me.
Trustees, any questions? I did get, that, we had that one, month where we didn't know what the calls were. We had missed a month of calls, so I didn't get that updated. So that, chart shows the whole year in review. During this past year, we, when we were getting the call data, we were doing it from meeting date to meeting date. We're gonna go back next year to January 1 to January 31st and so on and so forth, so we're gonna go back to that system. So the December calls look smaller because it literally was from the December meeting on the 13th to the end of December.
Paul, any, dog warden call this month?
I think we had a couple.
Show up?
Luckily, we didn't need her because the owners were able to get the dogs.
Do you have to make a call to the dog warden, or you just didn't need?
No, I don't believe we made any calls to her.
Okay, cool.
We have three complaints on, that's what, the animal complaints, I assume it's all dogs.
I think we had maybe one deer.
Which one, that second one?
Oh, one deer.
It could have been, yeah, I'd have to look, but yeah, most of them are dogs.
Hey Paul, that one case, criminal mischief, damaged property, criminal contempt, obstructing government administration,
Yes.
was that like an attack on officers?
No,
Okay.
no, that was a domestic incident where property was damaged, there was an order of protection that was in place, which was violated, and the obstructing governmental administration was, failure for the person to be fingerprinted because they refused to be.
Okay, is that person, did they go to jail?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for, Paul?
Just that, Paul, you will look into getting that, speed, the portable speed, indicator and
Yeah.
put it on the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Alright.
Thanks.
Looking for a motion to approve the police report?
I'll make it.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Deb. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Carries. Code enforcement report. Mark is not here. Mark is recovering from surgery. He did apologize for not being able to make it tonight to me. And that's okay.
Is he on his feet and walking around?
He is on his feet and walking around. He's been getting into the office a little bit more, as he's getting back into the shape of things. Everybody else who works for the village needs to be in a bubble because we can't have any more injuries and surgeries.
I'll make a motion to accept Mark's report as presented.
Thank you, Bobby. Need a second?
You do it.
Thank you,
Wait a
Deb.
minute. When,
Further
Elm Street,
discussion.
you're working on it, property recently sold, said old others you're working on, any updates?
20 Elm Street.
Number 10 on the red tag says on
No, I didn't know that. That it sold again. So that
That was quite a while ago.
okay. Basically, I sent several emails and a call to the owner of that property to try to get that as part of the Woodsbrook. He sent us his access agreement, which was like a damaged file that wouldn't open properly. We couldn't, so I sent him multiple requests to get back to me. He never did. So unfortunately, we're moving forward, which means for the Woodsbrook, we're just gonna work to close out the grant by the end of this month, right? I feel like we have.
I thought it was a touch later, but we'll look at that.
Alright, we'll check, but there's really nothing else to move on. And then that building now goes from something we were hoping to get through the Woodsbrook to something we as a municipality need to decide if Mark has to go and have someone go and inspect it and push the issue of fix it or tear it down like we have with previous buildings. But I think more pressing is the 114 Main Street roof, Church Street, sorry, which I did talk to Mark about and Andy about, and we talked a little bit about the process of what we would want to do that.
But is that's a process only if the county, or the county's the owner, only if they say, if they make us go through the process, right? Otherwise they can
Yes.
just authorize, say, yeah, go over and patch her up, right?
Yeah, hopefully Mark will be reaching out to the county to see what they can do to get that worked, and if they don't do that, then we can go through and force the issue. Ideally, we don't have to do it. And as Mark said, he was up there with me when we checked it out like about a year ago. It's a patch in a
That
spot.
was a year ago.
Yeah, I mean the whole roof is going to likely need to be replaced, but in terms of where the water damage, it's literally just one spot.
We just need to get it to where somebody can
We
own
wanna,
it and
we
take care
wanna
of it.
prevent any.
We just don't want water coming in.
Right.
Right.
But the
So
other-
Mark knows. Thank you guys for bringing that up, and he's working on that with the
My
county.
concern with that building is that the cost of the village to demolish that building is gonna be far more than $2,000 to patch the roof. Two, it's gonna be an eyesore in the center of the village. Three, there's a lot of people looking to buy that
Yep.
building when they finally, so as long as we keep it patched up, there will be somebody who will buy it. There's several people that are looking to buy it that know how to rehab those buildings, and know how to make money, know how to turn them around, and will make far more money on the back end, putting it back on the tax rolls, and it's gonna cost us even at our own expense to
And-
send somebody up there with a bucket of tar and a
Yeah.
EPDM, you know?
And in my recent communications with the county and Rich Chris, who is always very helpful and very accessible, I brought up the fact that we do want to see that go up to sale. So he's looking to make sure that gets on the next sale or auction or whatever
I
it
have a
is.
question, if
Yeah.
they can take 1 Center Street and take it off the auction list and just allow it to be sold, why can't we do it with that building?
You mean as in buy it from the village? Like have the village buy it?
Well, we don't own it, right? Or we
The
do?
county owns it.
Right,
The county
so-
owns it.
Who owned 1 Center Street? The county, right?
The county, the foreclosure process had to finish, and it just ended up in the hands officially of the county's owners.
He was in bankruptcy, so
Okay,
they couldn't
so,
touch
but,
the they couldn't touch the property.
Okay.
okay, I don't know, wait. So the village, it went into, so 114 Church Street is it's already in foreclosure. It's
County
been-
owned? No, it's not in foreclosure. It's
Beyond closing.
County.
So why can't they skip the whole auction process and just sell it to one of the people we
well,
know?
they have to either sell it or auction it. Whatever vehicle they use, we've just been waiting for the county to get that into
Right,
their
but they
next sale
skipped
or
the
auction.
vehicles they usually use for 1 Center Street, right? They didn't put it up for auction, they just sold it to Jason.
As Kevin said, that was in bankruptcy, and it limited what they could and could not act on.
He had several
Yeah,
properties, the owner had several properties throughout the county, and he was in bankruptcy. He's been trying to almost, like 6 years now, trying to get it out of bankruptcy, so.
Yeah.
This dates back to a different, county executive, a different attorney for the county.
Yep.
So kind of got lost in the shuffle, and then, it started up again, but,
Yeah.
it's a whole different situation. And when the village was looking at it from Woodsbrook, the county had, was gonna put it up for auction at that time, and now the county owns it, so it needs to be put back up for auction again.
Yep.
And now the timetable is February, I believe.
Well, that's only a month
January
away. I'll
next
take
month?
that.
Yeah.
June 2021
Yeah,
is the auction date.
Yeah.
It's still on the full building.
something.
Yeah.
Can we preemptively authorize Mark to hire someone to fix that roof at up to a certain amount?
I don't think we're allowed to do that. We have to go through the legal process because we're not the owners. If we were the
No,
owners, we'd do
assuming
it.
the county gives us, assuming there's no red tape in getting access to the property or permission. And they say, yeah, go ahead, you wanna hire somebody to go up there and patch it, go up there and patch it.
We'd still have to have the county pay for it, unless we're gonna just pay for it out of the kindness of our hearts.
That's fine, if the county's willing to pay for it. If it's a couple $1,000s to fix it and the county's not willing to pay for it, is the county gonna pay the $500,000 to $250,000 to demolish it later on and everything else? I'm saying that if we have to pay $2,000 to have somebody get up there and patch the roof, we need to pay $2,000 to have somebody get up there and patch the roof, because the cost to the village of losing that building, it's 6 or 9 units. It's gonna cost a lot of money to demolish. I think we shouldn't be penny wise and pound foolish on that.
It's not just what it's gonna cost to demolish it, it's all those taxes. the taxes
Absolutely.
we're not gonna get from, you know, from here on in.
But we don't have the authority to do that.
Yeah.
No, I get
So,
it, I get it, no, I get that.
I completely agree with you in principle, it's just we don't have the authority to act on it, we'd have to work out with the owners to do it.
Just so all you
But
guys
we're on
know,
that.
when you walk in through the village and you see all those empty buildings and say, why doesn't the village do something about it?
we're
Now you
trying.
know, we're
Yeah.
trying, but we're not getting a whole lot of help from other people.
All I'm saying is, could someone talk to Mark and ask him to find out if the county's willing?
I did like 3 days ago.
Okay, and B, if they're not willing to pay for it, I think that if it's not gonna cost a lot of money to send somebody
Yep.
with tar and some rubber and just stop the water
Yep.
from leaking.
Just, if you wanna call Mark in a couple days
I'll
and
give
see how
him
he's
a
doing
buzz.
it, please do it. So any further discussion on the code enforcement report?
No.
Looking for a motion to approve?
I
Oh no,
already
we've
did.
already did
I
the
already
motion,
did.
second. All in favor of approving the code enforcement report?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions or opposition? No, good, we're passed. Next reports, treasurer report, Denise, hi.
Hi, we're busy as always.
Mm-hmm.
We did do 2 ban refinances for the flood bans mid-December. Well, obviously we're putting the $450,000 ban out for bid. Typical year-end quarterly reports, 1099s, W-2s, normal stuff. I will say that
Wow,
we are in our normal cash crunch, so anything that doesn't absolutely have to be purchased should not be, unless it's approved by the mayor and the board in discussion first.
probably over the next about month and a half while the,
At least a month and a half, till we
Okay.
receive the re-levy from the county, which is March.
okay.
Have
Okay,
we got the CHIPS money yet, Denise?
That will help.
Yeah, I figured it's, wondering if we got it yet.
alright. Any other questions for Denise? Looking for a motion to approve the treasurer report?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Bobby.
Second.
Thank you, other Bobby. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Carries. Clerk, deputy clerk report. Hi, deputy clerk.
Hi.
Anything you wanna highlight?
No, just, working on the new bills coming in, collecting money, collecting the payments, still doing transfer tickets, death certificates, just the usual, day to day,
Good, good.
taking care of the counter.
Any questions for Judy? Looking for motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. I'll give it to Dan, 'cause he moved first.
That's right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or
Aye.
abstentions? Carries. Great. Highway DPW, Neil Stoll. Final report. Do you want me to cue up some music?
I kinda like my first, report I sent you and Bobby.
What's that?
I like the first report that I sent you and Bobby.
About 12 days to retirement.
One thing I wanna highlight, I forgot to put this in the announcements, Christmas tree pickup has started. Christmas tree pickup runs through mid-February. Trees can also be taken to the village transfer station. I forgot to mention that. Anything else you wanna pass on with the tree pickup?
No, I just wanna ask, Neil, did you get my email about the gazebo? That's all good? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
For price.
First price,
Yeah.
always first price.
Say buy one.
Neil, anything you wanna pass on? Bobby, anything you wanna highlight?
No, just about today, Neil, you were able to go take care of all of the signed stubs along that you could find.
That was the time.
Jan, did you talk, do you know, is there one still in front of your house?
Oh, I didn't go on, no.
There's one going down the other side of High Street from Munsell.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out, cause there's the one I always remember thinking about.
Who were they, no parking signs or something, they got knocked over, or?
Yeah, it's just like,
Well, it's the state's responsibility. I think at one time the state came to the village highway garage and took all the ones that had fallen down and never went back and put them back up.
Yeah, but do you know how much those things cost?
So-
I now know.
So it was the state's
Wound up on
responsibility. I think a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I sent a letter to the state and I talked to them on the phone about it and they never did anything about it. So Neil just took care of it, but it wasn't our responsibility.
Yep.
Somebody fell just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
It could
So-
have been worse and, I mean, probably the village is liable because it's a village sidewalk, but.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for bringing that up.
If
Thank you,
anybody-
Neil, for taking care of that.
If anybody on the board sees any more, or anybody sees those stubs sticking up, let us know and we can get them taken
Yeah.
care of.
Actually, I had a complaint from a village resident, and she complied a lot of those numbers that I had on the list previously. So, people that walk a lot are the ones that notice it the most, and
Mhm.
reported them.
Mhm.
But thanks for taking care of that, Neil.
Thank you, Neil. Alright, looking to approve Neil's final DPW report.
I'll make that.
Dan makes a motion, Bobby makes a second.
He was up first, Bob.
Alright.
I wasn't,
He was a dollar short.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Carries. How many days left, Neil? You have to think about this? Oh my gosh, come on. Awesome. Alright. Sewer report. Anything you guys wanna ask Kenny about? Or note? Looking for a motion to approve the sewer department report?
motion.
No, Kenny, was the solar panels ever fixed by that company?
They've had a company down there a couple times, and, you know, he's concerned about they hooked up some kind of transmitter system inside the office building, and that was it, I haven't heard back since.
Is it working at all?
I couldn't tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Is this the array heading towards the DPW, or not DPW, the sewer wastewater treatment plant
Yep,
on the right?
yep,
It's
some of them,
it's falling off
some of them
halfway.
fallen over, yeah. Yep, we've sent them letters, they've actually had, Monolith was bought out by another company, and I can't think of the name of it right now, Azimuth?
Amsterdam.
Actually, I saw them,
Amsterdam.
No, mine's Azimuth, they're a company out of New Jersey.
Oh,
So
hold
each-
on, I got
There you go,
this.
that's the problem.
So each set of solar panels in the village, that's sold to someone else. So so these guys that are taking care of my solar panels don't have anything to do with the ones in the transfer station. They don't have any of the ones to do with the municipal building or the water plant.
Well, they must have farmed it out because it
Sunlight.
was
Sunlight's the one, right?
Sunlight in Amsterdam.
But Sunlight doesn't own that array.
So the ones that I've been dealing with are called Azimuth,
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
AZMUTH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Azimuth 120 or something like that, it's called.
that's been, what, 3 years now, is
Oh,
it
it's been
more?
longer than that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea if it's even working or not, I don't dare touch anything, I mean, they've fallen over, and there's wires dangling off of them, I don't know if I'm gonna get electrocuted. You know, it's hard to even mow and maintain them, I don't know anything about them.
And when you call, they can't tell you anything either.
You don't even get a person, you know, so. And I don't know, you know, I don't have an email for, well, this new company, I've got one of his cards, so he probably has email on there, but I kind of given up on those guys, so I don't know.
Alright.
But,
It's too bad, that was a good company, they were
Yeah.
very good to the community, they held the chicken barbecue every year for the
Mm-hmm.
residents, and then, I guess they overextended themselves.
Alright, I have a motion to approve the sewer department report. Need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Carries. Water department report. Felt like there was something else I wanted to add, but I can't remember it right now. Unless you have questions, I'll take a motion to approve the water department report.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bobby D.
Second.
Bobby R. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Alright, carries. Alright, minutes. One at a time, unless you guys, excuse me, have corrections, I'm looking for a motion to approve the December 13th regular meeting minutes.
Motion.
Thank you, Dan.
Second.
Thank you, multiple Bobbies. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Carries. December 28th was a special meeting, unless you guys have comments on that. Looking for a motion to
I'll
approve.
make the motion.
Thank you, Bobby D.
Second.
Thank you, Bobby R. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstentions? Carries. We had a January 3rd. Did I email that one out?
Store New York.
Yeah, I emailed that one out. Yeah, it was just a brief rehash of the Restore New York one. Can you check and see if I emailed that out? Because if not, we won't approve that. Let me skip ahead to the January 4th special meeting. which was just an executive session where we did an interview, attorney interview. Looking for a motion to approve the January 4th special meeting minutes. Thank you, Deb. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bobby.
Sorry,
It's fine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstentions? Carries. I'm just gonna do a quick check myself to make sure I sent those out, because if not, I'll simply postpone that and we'll put it off on the next one. I don't think I did.
I see the 13th.
I don't think I did. I'm gonna postpone putting that one off. Can you make note? I gotta check on that one and
Okay.
get that back
Yeah.
on the next one. Alright, moving ahead to, we've done the public hearing closing trustee committee reports. We can start on the end with Kevin and work our way this way. What do you have, Kevin? Anything?
Just about the parking study that we talked about, actually was less than I even thought about, but thought it was, I haven't seen it in a while, I just looked it back up again. It was $11,000. I'm gonna have to have them scope it.
Okay.
Because it originally didn't include the upper parts of Main and Church Street, what we talked about, so we'll have to have them calibrate whatever the cost would be.
Okay.
So, one company is still interested, Creighton Manning, the other out of Vermont. When I talked to him about actually doing it back, when we agreed to it last time, didn't even respond to my request, so it was quite a long time after, we said we're gonna have it done, so. We
Okay.
just decided they weren't gonna do business in this area. And then I called another firm, Bobby, what's the firm we used to know from Albany?
Labarge?
Labarge, and waiting for a return call from them.
Ben Simon.
Yeah.
What is the area coverage that we have?
Well, it was just the downtown to the river, up to, I think the Armory, but now it's
Yeah, include Upper Church, right?
Church Street, and actually there's some spots on Main Street we've been talking about setbacks for visibility for cars and that kind of thing, so I think the corner of Willard and, Church and
Yes.
Willard and Main Street are problem areas that
Yes.
we're taking a look at.
Yep. I think if we can get that aligned for the February meeting, we can start to either figure out if that's gonna be something we can budget for the next fiscal year, or if we use ARPA funds for that.
So
Don't
it's
tell me.
$11,000, I thought it was 25 for some reason, so it's a lot less.
I feel like the other one was, the second one was like way more expensive.
It might have been.
I think, we have to revisit soon Upper Church Street problems with just traffic flow.
Well, that's gotta be part of it. That's
Well,
good.
the other suggestion at one time
That's
is
what's causing that.
making Church Street a one-way street, maybe that's something they can look at as well.
You know what, if we're gonna talk about, we have to do, if we decide to go with the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, we're gonna have to do a parking study. We still have to, as Andy said last time, we still have to go do a parking study with a certified or an engineer who knows what he's doing, and then get permission from the DOT. But, maybe there's a way we can combine the studies, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll save us a little bit of money if we do a double or something, I don't know. I'm just saying.
What's the most critical, parking or the speed?
Yeah, I think we have to agree on speed limit before we even think about including that.
Okay, but I'm just saying, if we're gonna have to do parking study, and if it's the same people, I would imagine it's the same kind of engineer that looks at parking, that looks at speed limits. So maybe if we combine the two, we could end up, if we decide to go with speed limit.
I mean, Andy, with that state program, like the state, new directive on that, can it be street by street, or is it just as a whole, a blanket of the whole?
You can do
You
individual.
can do street by street.
That's gonna cost a lot more money than.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a presentation.
Okay. Anything else, Kevin?
No, that's it.
Great, thank you.
But you are gonna get a rebid, a new
Hopefully we
bid,
can,
Kevin?
hopefully we can have that done if we have the funds for it by the spring, because they're gonna have to go out and do surveys and, car counts and parking lots and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and it really needs to be done, because people know that they're not gonna get a ticket, because we haven't got any parking rules right now, and they're parking for a long time.
Parking tickets have increased. I've got that
Well,
note from the court.
From the downtown area?
Mm-hmm,
Oh, that's good.
mm-hmm.
not come in front of my building.
I was
And a certain,
pleasantly surprised
pizza
when I
shop
heard
owner
that.
isn't getting any because he's still parking right in front of my shop.
Well, mention that to a certain police officer or two. Bobby D?
Well, I just been bothering Denise the last couple of days, and I'm gonna be bothering her
They tell me,
more because she likes me.
I mean, I haven't done it for a while.
I just got picked my time. Well, right now, we're looking at the water fund and we're
Good, thank you.
trying to, see how we can reconcile that.
This is gonna,
We
this
just
is,
gotta eliminate some waste here.
this budget cycle is going to be one heck of a process. It's I don't wanna say it's reinventing the wheel, but everything's gotta be looked at very deeply because I wanna build in getting this debt paid off in a way that doesn't fall on individual residents, but also doesn't raise taxes, so
Yeah, we
that's
gotta
gonna be a
just-
huge deal.
We gotta eliminate some waste here.
And a lot of this debt is debt from before all of us were on the board. It just is what it is. Infrastructure upgrades that were a necessity in the late '90s, early 2000s, when previously they had been put off, and the life of a municipality. All right. Anything else, Bobby?
Nope.
Thank you, Dan.
No, just to go along with what Bobby was saying, him and I were talking, and we do want to meet Denise to figure out. I think what we need to come up with is a 1, 3, and 5-year plan of the water bills to bring our operating costs, water into parity with what we're charging. I think that's single-handedly the biggest problem here, we're charging far less than our production costs.
Yeah.
And that should not be, we should find a way, and I'm not talking in 1 year because that's gonna be a big bite for people. But realistically, it needs, the production costs and the cost to the customer needs to be the same, and it needs to stay that way in perpetuity.
Yeah, and we've gotta eliminate some spending, unneeded spending, and we have works both sides, so there's a lot of work to do.
There is.
The cutting back the spending is gonna be easier than selling the increase in the water.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
essential all across the board in
But it-
anything you do, so.
However you do it, it doesn't matter, if you cut costs at the water plant, or you have to raise the water level, whatever you have to do, the point being that the production, the cost should equal what we're charging, period.
And it hasn't for years. We've been
We're not
eating
in
that
business
cost
of-
because we didn't want to add more costs onto village residents for.
Saco Bay didn't help us,
No,
they don't, the recollection,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
But
that's a lot of money we don't take in.
I
I
understand.
know what you mean.
No, and I understand the premise behind not wanting to raise the water bills during the PFOA thing, in the same regard, and I've said this before, you can't, whoever company's making chemicals for $50 a gallon, you can't go up and say we're only gonna pay 30 because the residents are unhappy about the water.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you'd be out of business, you know, and now we have a budget buster hole because it's a bit of an injury of our own infliction.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, anything else?
Anything else?
No, that's.
All right. All right. Thank you, Dan. Deb.
I got a couple things. First, I just wanted to say that Denise and I still haven't gotten to the transfer station fees because other things just keep coming up. But we will, right? We will. Okay. It's still there. I wanted to thank everyone who was involved in the Christmas decorations. I know there were a couple of little bruised egos or whatever in different places, but we'll keep working at it until we get it right. And but they did look great all over the building.
Yep.
You know, the wreaths look great, the trees look great, the poles look great, all of it looked really nice. So just want to say thank you to everybody. The highway department, it was Hoosick Rising, so Aaron set up the gazebo, looked really nice. Also, I'm still working up to getting the planning and zoning certification. I believe that we can vote to make our own not our own certification, but right now the state makes you go a certain number of hours in person, but we can vote
For training.
Yeah, but we can make our own law that says, or a resolution, whatever it's called, to have them be able to do it online or, that way, and I think that way we'll get more people to do it. Yeah, because,
That would be great. That would be great.
Right, so, and I think that's really important because, first of all, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen if we're not certified, and second of all, that we're seeing more and more businesses and things coming into the village, and we need to be ready for that.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of questions that with our current knowledge, we don't know how to answer, we gotta get ready for that.
And I know that's a
So-
priority as we're looking into our next attorney to make sure they're able to help us with that.
Yep.
Just like Andy has been.
A quick question is, for Neil, do we have any leftover benches when we put the new ones out? Are there any that could be sat on and not falling through? That are left just hanging around? Okay, if there are, can we, give one, donate one or something to Haka? Because they're going back to having people outside because of COVID's coming back up, so, they need a place to wait and fill out their forms.
Oh, for the food
For
pantry?
the food pantry, yeah.
Do we have anything we can get down there?
If you could, that would be great. They would be enormously appreciative if we could do
Okay.
that, so that'd be really good.
Would something as simple as some extra folding chairs work as well for them, or that's,
A little bench then, I mean, it's mostly us old ladies that work there, so for us to carry them out, carry
Yeah.
them in addition to
Yeah.
carrying all the groceries out to the people.
yeah, that's,
I mean, we could do it, but it'd be easier if we could just have a bench.
okay, we'll look into it.
Thank you.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to talk about, I gave you all this, speed limit New York State thing, and I just wanted to say, we do need to talk about what the cost of it would be and all that kind of stuff. But I think first, if we could just decide if we think it's a good idea or not, then, I can go forward and do more research and find out what exactly we have to do and how much it would cost and all kinds of stuff like that. So, my feeling is that it's a safety issue. I know that people drive really fast. You know that people drive really fast, right? You came in to talk about that tonight. And I know that, if people drive at 30, if the speed limit's 30, they'll drive at 35 or 40. If the speed limit's 25, they'll drive at 25 or 30. And it's been shown, there are studies that show that you can't stop as fast, like if somebody's walking out in the crosswalk and you're going 30, there are gonna be way more accidents than if you're going 25 and you need to stop, right? Or if you're going 30, you can stop faster than if you're going 35, so there's that. And we have a lot of kids, I mean, this kind of community barely exists anymore, where kids are out on their own, in the village, riding around on their bikes or skateboarding, until we build a skate park. Stuff like that, people jog, people walk, and like the gentleman who came tonight, I think it would be a good safety thing, and it's a big rush, really, I mean, it's gonna take you a few more seconds, so, you get to the stop sign 3 seconds earlier, big deal. So anyway, I think it would be good for the community, I think it would be a good safety thing. There are lots and lots and lots of villages that are looking that have decided to lower their speed limit. We still need to get permission from DOT, and we do have to do a traffic study, and we do have to, we would have to put up all new signs, I can't even talk about the signs.
Have to hire an engineer.
Well, you have to do the parking study, yes.
So are you
It might not
suggesting,
be the same one.
are you suggesting a 30 to 25 everywhere in the village?
Well, that's something we could talk about, but I think we need to decide if we think that's, I mean, certainly in the downtown area. We can't touch 22, that's state road. But, the other areas, Main Street, some of the other side streets, certainly River Road. But the other thing is, of course, that we will need to have police, actually, enforcing the law. Because if we don't.
Tickets are up, I heard from the court,
I know,
tickets
you
are
told me
up,
that
so they're
already.
enforcing.
Okay, but, and lots of towns are doing it, just when I went on the Google, I have a friend who says that.
The Google,
It's not my
was that
voice.
on the interweb?
Yeah. Go on the Google, and you find out that tons of places pop up, Lewiston, Tarrytown, Bethlehem, Bronxville, they're all changing. And they're finding that it's better. I also think as a plus for why we should do it, I think if you have a higher speed limit, that basically means, hey, let's just drive through. If you have a slower speed limit, you get to look around to see what's there, you might notice a shop or a store or a viewpoint you wanna pull over off on the road to look at. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons to slow it down, and I think a slower speed limit says, hey, we're worth riding slow, our kids are worth riding slowly, our businesses are worth riding slowly. I just think it's philosophically it works better that way.
So we're sensing some passion from you on this.
Yes. Yes.
I'm on the fence, me personally on this. I'd be interested to hear from community members at a later meeting about what their thoughts are on this. I personally am kind of leaning towards not really interested in lowering it, interested in leaving it, but I feel like if a lot of people came forward and said we should lower it, I'd be open to that. I'm interested to hear what you guys, the rest of the board, is thinking about it. Thoughts?
I've talked to quite a few people. I haven't found anyone that would be for it, but that all depends on who you ask. I'm not for it.
Okay.
And just about everybody on
you get
Adams
a
Street would
speed-
be for it.
You get us, put the speed limit at 25, they're still gonna do 50.
Not if somebody else is doing their job. Plus, then it's a bigger ticket, so we get more money.
Anybody else want to bravely share their
Let me
opinion?
just respond to that, let me just respond to that. Because people are gonna do it anyway,
I'd say 30.
Well, I think that, instead of spending $60 per sign, changing to 25, better off putting money towards buying either a speed wagon or those
Speed bumps.
permanent signs
Yeah, that works.
that have solar that give your speed every time you go through. They're popping up everywhere now.
I get on a monthly basis. I get more company advertisements. I can probably name like 10 company advertisements who send us those. Hey, want information on one of those signs?
right,
No,
but here's
no,
the
right.
thing, if you guys don't think it's a
send it
bad
over.
idea, you're all gonna vote against it, tell me now, because I won't waste my time doing research. Because there's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, I'm not gonna call up other communities and ask them why.
I'm on. Honestly, I
If we're
think
not gonna do it.
Could you do like a study area, say you wanna just get some suggested 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs?
I
Put them
don't.
on Abbott Street, see where it gets you.
I don't have any problem reaching out to the community and saying, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Maybe there's a particular couple roads just to see what the opinions are out there.
And you
Like I
can't
said-
change Route 22.
Right, we can't change
No, we can't
22.
change-
I'm generally on the fence about lowering it. It's only 5 miles per hour. Kevin brings up a good point about the cost of signs, which drove Deb through.
Oh my God.
through the roof
$60
earlier
is
today.
cheap.
But yeah, I'd be interested to hear what people have to say about it.
Every
So,
dollar for the water from the.
I'm sure the Eastwick Press will make reference to this conversation, and we're eager to hear from people about what they have to say.
Well, you could
And
we could also just schedule a public hearing for input, couldn't we, Andy?
Yep.
You don't have to
Certainly
have a
could.
local law to present, you can just get the pulse of the people by asking what they think about it, decreasing the speed limit.
That works.
That way you're not
Dan?
spinning your wheels for nothing.
I candidly, I'm a no on it. I think 30's, first of all, if we can't lower the speed limit on 22, that's gonna create a bit of confusion there anyway. And outside of River Road, actually, and maybe Mechanic Street, a few
I mean, you
others.
got signs on River Road, children that play, and by the school it's 25 miles an hour,
It's a school thing, yeah.
you know?
School zone, yeah.
You'd be happy to have 30.
It don't do any good.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
don't do any good.
Yeah, I mean, I live up on High Street and
It's bad up there too.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a screened-in porch inside my house, and sometimes I sleep out in the futon, and it's like a drag strip, I mean, Paul, you know, I mean,
A lot of tickets come from that spot.
In Lewiston,
Yeah,
in
that's
Lewiston, they discussed, and they decided that people will probably drive, I'm taking from the article, people will probably still drive faster than 25 miles per hour, but right now, if they know they can go 30, they'll go 40, so maybe, so if we go to 25, they'll go 30 or 35. I think it's related. And, let me finish. Thank you. And, the police chief there said that the stopping distance, that's an important piece of it. It's not just how fast you drive, but how fast you can stop. Because people walk out in those crosswalks like, and all the time. I do. Even 5 miles per hour difference, the stopping difference can make a big difference for safety.
Mhm.
So it's not just how fast you're driving, it's also,
So,
How
so,
fast
so
you can
Deb
stop.
wants to hear from people in the community who are on her side on this.
permission to speak.
Yes, sir.
don't not interrupt me.
Well, actually, I was talking, and you.
Alright.
No, but no,
No,
seriously, though, I don't know.
Hey, this is part of our old business, by the way,
No,
so I'm just gonna check this off right
I
now.
don't know how many places that you can really get going that fast that are
Check.
outside of like River Road,
Abbott Street,
Route,
Fall Street,
Yeah, no, I know,
River
there's some
Street.
Wilder Avenue,
River
come down,
Road.
I'm sure you could hit about
John
90 coming
Street.
down that hill.
Which we can't touch. Main
Um,
Street,
You
yeah,
don't
every
get up
single
to
one of
30
them.
miles an hour on John Street.
Yeah, that'd be a little tough on.
Really? Have you seen trucks?
Alright. We know our, wait, listen, we know our passions on this, we're not deciding anything tonight, we wanna hear from people on this, we know we have disagreements and that's fine.
Point being though, there's so, like in Second Ward, there's so many stop signs that you can't go more than 10 feet without like 6 of them.
Well, we don't need to worry about those spots, cause you're right. By the time you're speeding up to 20, to hitting 25 or 30, you gotta stop again,
And put
which
five
is
stop
good.
signs
Oh,
Safe
oh,
over there. Yeah.
The
Alright.
real solution here is to get
30
more
seconds on
tickets,
this
more
point, please,
tickets to
then we'll
TV.
move on.
That is the solution.
Deb, is there anything else?
Nope, that was
In
it.
your, thank you, Deb. Thank you for your passion. Bobby.
Alright, I just wanted to give a little update on the LED streetlight project. The IGA is done, the industrial grade audit's been completed, actually we have a voucher in the bills tonight for it, for $11,211. The bids have been, are being put out, by Realterm for contractors. And right now, I'm still waiting on National Grid, which is a big shock, to get back to them for them getting back to me in regards to the discrepancy between what they found in the audit and what we've been paying for the last 50 probably years. There's a difference of 47 lights, 47 poles, but there's 47 additional poles that I believe, some of them are Neil and Kevin, they're the ones probably on the bridges and on 22 that are ours, right? We own some of those. So, and so I asked them about that, and there's also 8 poles that they could not find that National Grid has on their inventory that don't exist. There's actually 7 poles that don't exist and 1 that was supposed to have a street light that has no arm or light on it. So I also asked about that, so.
That's cool.
So that's what we're waiting on
Alright.
National Grid at that.
Keep getting ran over in the parking lot.
What's that?
You keep getting run over in the parking lot.
Yeah,
If we can get all the missing poles installed along this road
Right.
to light it up, that would be great.
so that's where we're at. I mean, I'll keep bugging National Grid until we get answers, but they're,
Thank you.
where it's work in progress and hopefully to get going as soon as possible.
Alright, we are a little bit over an hour and a half. Students, if you guys want to get your signatures from any of the trustees, you can certainly do that. You are welcome, students,
can
to stay for
stay.
the whole meeting. But if you need to get out of here and get us to sign off on things, we can certainly do that now.
Looks like they're all staying.
Thank you for coming. I'll need to borrow that
I
pen
would be
for a minute.
I won't complain.
There you go. Thank you.
We need something to sign.
Appreciate it.
Outstanding. Gonna use a pencil, don't tell anybody.
Were you here for the whole term?
Mayor signed with a pencil, don't tell anybody.
Right.
Hey guys,
I got her.
you guys all set? Good. Okay, we've done some old business.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Rob,
Yeah.
one other thing, I think those guys touched on it, a pole was knocked over in the village parking lot, and, I think it was destroyed. Gordon Pricky does have it, and he said it's beyond repair. Did National Grid ever respond to your?
They keep on saying it's a village business.
Which pole, is this the one that was like about a year or two ago?
No, this is the night, last week, it was the night last week,
Oh,
right in front of the cutting, they ran over one, somebody ran over one. It was when I left that meeting we had down here, there was all sorts of,
Oh, last Wednesday night?
yeah, all sorts of stuff going on in the parking lot, I looked and there was
Oh,
a car.
yes, I
There was a
remember.
car right up on top
I
of
assume
it.
there's an accident report on that.
Yep.
So I'll call National Grid tomorrow and see what they're gonna do, whether they want the old one back or,
No.
well, they have another one I saw down by the substation sitting there from the, that got knocked down too, so.
So that is not a village pole.
That is a village pole.
It
Those
is a
four
village
in the parking lot are all village. Not
Village.
village, but they're national.
They're national.
They're
Grid
National Grid
poles.
poles, okay,
Ones
in the village
We're
park.
paying for.
Which we're paying
Don't
for.
pay your bill, then they'll call you right away.
Alright,
The other thing was that I was looking through the bills and we were talking about saving money. I think we're gonna look into this, but we're paying like 3 or 4 different engineering companies that do testing of the landfill. Adirondack is one that's been doing it for a long time, but
that's a requirement based, we've looked in this a while back, that's a requirement that they do kind of regularly that is separate from any leachate landfill stuff. Regular DEC requirements. Kenny, is that right? The Adirondack one? Thank you.
This doesn't make sense why 3 or 4 different, like CT Mail's testing it, say Sterling's testing it in the same year.
They're all looking for different things in different locations in different ways. Kenny, you
Yeah,
wanna
so-
speak to that?
So, since I've been here, Adirondacks come out, I think, once a year, and they have a little test well, and they pull a sample on their own of whatever it is they're looking for. You know, geez, maybe they could have found something and saved us this whole mess years ago if they were looking for something else, but. So I don't actually know what they're looking for, but I know that they do come out and they test once a year. We also happen to use Adirondack Labs for my testing at the sewer plant, monthly, twice a month.
DEC regulation.
DEC regulated, yes. Yep.
That being said, Kevin, I'm all ears on any cost saving measures you can find.
Yeah, I was just curious, cause there's so many tests going on.
Yeah, I honestly don't know why, and it doesn't go through me, it has nothing to do with me.
It's all DEC.
Yeah, it's all DEC, that's all state stuff, I have nothing to do with what they're testing for.
Yeah. And the majority.
Especially since they pretty much know what's in there now anyway.
Yeah, it's a pretty good idea.
Yes.
You would think.
Yes. Yeah. Alright, did you guys wanna discuss anything related to ARPA funds? I know it's kind of on our radar and I know Denise will throw things at us if we spend money on it from there, as we look to the next budget.
Well,
Hold
I
on.
mean,
the only thing I'd like to talk, I wanna plug that, once we get the pricing of the parking study, that we look into that again and see if we can use the ARPA funds potentially for it.
Sure.
I mean, that's just, I know we're trying not to spend any of it, but I think that would be money well spent depending on the cost.
How much is left in the ARPA fund?
161. You also have small cities money that you could use for that. I'm just concerned about the ARPA with doing next year's budget.
Yeah, no, that's, I
No,
get
we're
that, I'm
always
just thinking
there.
out loud, that's all.
I don't know what it's gonna come out, but you do have small cities of some economic development money, which
158.
This is the latest ARPA funds. This was as of the November meeting. I wasn't at the December meeting. I don't think we spent anything in December.
I
right?
spent all of it.
You spent all of
Well,
it,
you weren't
great,
here, I
alright,
spent it all.
perfect, thank you. That's what I like to hear. So this is what we spent it on thus far, and this is what's remaining, 158, 298.
Yeah, we do have that 21,000 of the economic development as well. It's been sitting there for quite a long time.
How much of that? How much, I'm
about
sorry?
20,000.
Okay.
Well, that's good, if we, that'd be perfect.
Well, he told Bobby about it, now he's gonna spend it.
No, I'm just thinking that parking study I think is critical, we really need to get that done.
Yeah.
Talking about a long amount.
Don't we still have that HUD money too, Denise, that's sitting there?
Small cities.
Is that what it is? That we can never get a determination on what it could be used for other than,
Low to moderate income community, that's what we are, so it's okay to use it.
well, I think we should use it for
They
sidewalk.
don't really care anyway, if they, you know,
How much is
it's
that?
our money.
You know,
Probably 25 to 30. I know we have one in Pioneer, it's 20, you know, I've got 10 different
But
accounts.
yeah,
I can't
sidewalk
remember.
repair would be good for that, Kevin, you're right.
I mean,
That would be
is there any
fantastic.
Lawsuit's gonna
by
cost a lot more than
making
that.
sidewalks, people have, they don't have
Right.
cars and getting
It's for
there.
economic
Adjusting all the
development.
ADA ones that are a little bit
Yes.
out of kilter now, that would be great, that'd be a great use for that. Alright, I'm gonna quickly move on because we already did this to prevent any further fisticuffs. Discussion, so this is funny because I wasn't at the last meeting and in the Eastwick Press, it was noted that the board was discussing a possibility of having a carrier for the water and sewer samples. I had 3 calls within 2 days going like, what are you guys doing? I heard you're doing this. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I called the water and the sewer guys and they're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. It was just a conversation that you guys were looking at the possibility of trying to save money.
Courier.
Courier, not carrier, sorry, courier.
So real quick, I had carrier service, we used them like 15 years ago. They're so unreliable. I mean, I'm not saying that the one we get, so like, they charge us like $50. So my samples have a 24-hour holding time. I would have to drop them off at the municipal building. Sometimes they wouldn't get picked up for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
We gotta resample. Josh and Jim, they have to bring their samples to the city the same day they take their samples. They have a chain of custody that I don't have. Nobody cares about food water. You know, they have drinking water that they have to. They have to maintain a chain of custody.
Yeah.
And what I've been doing is, I don't have a set day that I have to sample, I just have to do it 2 weeks a month. So they do, so I've been scheduling my time around theirs, and then, you know, been transporting all the samples at once. And then, like today, they brought their samples down, Keith brought ours down, we needed some parts at DePaula. They made a trip, one trip out of everything, so we don't have to,
Good.
you know, run down for parts, so I'm trying to get everything on one schedule and,
The
you know.
the one I thought important person that reached out was Paul Baker, who's at Fall Central School, because apparently they use the same exact company that we use for those samples. So there may be a possibility for us to split duties, and but again, it's the water guys have to decide if it's okay to have an additional person in the chain of custody.
To their higher ups.
And
This came up in the conversation about the van and.
Yeah.
Right.
Just come.
Well, it's just cost cutting, you know, exactly, you know, we gotta look at every corner.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's a good discussion.
It's just too
I
funny.
wish I had known about it.
I got an email for a text from
It was
John.
no, it was really
Text
funny.
him.
Yeah.
To go to the city.
Yeah. So no, but I mean, I think in particular with the school, that could actually be a really good partnership,
Yeah.
splitting duties on that.
You know, we could set it up.
Yeah.
I don't know what his schedule is, how often he has to test
Yeah.
or whatever, but like I said, I'm pretty lenient on when I test, it's just when I fill out my chain of custody, they have to be at the lab within 24 hours.
Right. And chain of custody typically is I don't want to say it's ignored, but it's like it's kind of there. But when there's a problem, all of a sudden it's
Yeah,
very
for me-
much on the radar.
For me, it's not a big deal, I mean, you know, like I said, school, nobody cares.
No one's gonna contaminate your
Nobody's
poop
gonna
water.
contaminate it, it's already contaminated, you know, so, but with the water guys, yes, they have to have
Okay.
seals on their bottles, and they have to have all sorts of fancy stuff to.
But again, I'm
So, Rob,
very
why
glad
don't
to have
you,
discussions on.
Why don't you talk to Eamon and see when they have to do it or what they're doing?
Yeah, we.
Paul's already started to talk to me, so I'm glad to connect you guys. And I know Paul's retiring at
Paul's on his way out.
the end of June, I
End of the school
think.
year.
End of the school year. So yeah, all these newfangled folks from
I know, right?
the show. All right. So I just wanted to throw that out to the side. We definitely discussed parking study.
We didn't talk about towing though.
We didn't talk about towing, and I know there were some emails about towing services. What do you got?
We have someone who's interested in towing, if we, for as far as, if we ever get any snow, we're gonna enforce the parking. We do have someone who's willing to
This was
do
the
it.
day before Neil retired.
Cause I know that was one of the issues that with the snow removal is, in moving vehicles, is that no one was willing to come and tow vehicles when we wanted them to.
Yeah.
So,
I worked part-time for a towing company for a long time, I don't anymore, but, their biggest thing, all the people around town, they don't wanna tow the people in town because it could potentially be their customers, you know, they don't wanna.
oh yeah,
You know, that was the thing, that's why I think we should have, you know, an out-of-town.
well, we got, the guy we have is from White Creek, and he's
Okay.
more than willing,
Yeah,
so
I mean,
yeah,
So like, I know that we would, you know, Gordon would get a call and he'd be like,
sure,
I just worked on that guy's car last week, I don't wanna tow his car.
right.
You know, that's the kind of thing.
Catch
Yeah.
22.
That makes sense. That makes
Slow
sense.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Andy, if would we need to like put together an agreement, or do we just do this as needed? If we have
More wants to buy Neil.
an agreement in principle with the police department, like what's the right way to do this?
First thing is check the snow emergency clause, see if there's anything in there on
There is.
the tow.
There is,
Oh,
yeah.
all right.
It's also down.
And then there should be an agreement in place. Usually towing companies just have their charge. They charge the owners to get the cars out.
Right, that's the way it is.
And, but
They impound the vehicle until
you can
they
look at
pay
an
it
agreement
back.
for purposes of things like liability and things
Sure.
like that, so.
Yeah, they had like their own tow yard and everything, so
Yeah.
nothing falls back on the village.
Right.
Okay, we
Yeah.
can, Kevin and I can look into that, Paul, and get the information. Okay,
Hey, while we're looking at that, the ordinance for snow emergencies, I think is effective 1970. So we may want to look into updating that.
didn't we have that?
Did we update it?
Yeah, we make snow emergency.
What's that,
cases.
Neil?
We never got through that.
It has been updated. So the one on the village website, I need to update
Yeah,
that.
no, that's,
All right, can you send me the latest one?
cause we
I'll-
updated
I'll
that
update that
when we did
link.
the most recent signs, didn't we do that yeah, I thought so too.
Is that okay? Yeah. Can you make a note of that to try to track that down so I'll get the updated one on the website. I'm kind of stuck because I want to go through and update links on the website, but I'm also working on the new website, so I don't wanna put the work into one if the other one's on the way. Alright. So can we move on to the next items? Is that alright? Alright. First off, we have a resolution, for village elections, standard setting the polling place. Let me bring up that resolution. It is number 4, I think. This is about as basic as a resolution as they come, but we have a resolution for village election 2023, whereas the village of Huzik Falls will hold their annual election on March 21st, 2023. Therefore, be it resolved that the polling place for the 2023 village election will be held at the village municipal building, 24 Main Street, between the hours of noon and 9 p.m. So I need someone to offer the resolution and second it.
I'll make it. Motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. This is kind of the standard fare from village election requirements and NICOM. Any additional discussion? Just kind of standard normal stuff.
Roll call in here now.
Says roll
There
call,
should-
so
There should be on a resolution.
yeah. Alright, roll call vote.
Okay,
You can just go right down the line.
okay. Trustee Kevin?
Trustee Kevin?
Trustee O'Malley?
Roll call vote for the village election resolution.
Yes.
Trustee Decker?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Shetty?
Nope.
Excuse me, yes.
What took you so long?
Well, who got yelled at before for
What
cutting?
took you so long?
I will turn this car right around.
Trustee
Your children, Rob?
To you.
Alter?
Yes.
Trustee Mayor?
Deputy Mayor, yeah.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
I'm also a
Mayor.
yes. Yes, thank you. Okay, so that passes. Next thing, to make it all official, I am looking for a motion to accept the resignation / retirement. Where'd he go? He already left. Never mind, no, I'm just kidding. To accept the resignation and retirement of DPW Superintendent Neil Stoll, effective at the end of the workday, January 26th.
I will make that motion.
Oh, he heard his ears were ringing. Alright, Bobby has made the motion, need a second?
Deb?
Lots of people, Judy gave it to Deb. Alright, any discussion?
No, I just wanna thank Neil for his, how many years, Neil, of service? 30 plus?
35, 38.
Of service to the village and as a highway superintendent. I hope you enjoy every minute of your retirement. I'm sure we haven't seen the last of you though.
Awesome. I agree.
Sit down at Cumbies at 8 o'clock in the morning.
It'll be
Just don't be hanging around the
8:30
guys.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Stay away from them when you're working.
Yeah.
Alright, any further discussion? Or ribbing? Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstentions? Carries. Thank you. We have a resolution authorizing the payment of accumulated and unused vacation time, which I will bring up right now. That is not the right one. Alright, whereas the village of Huzik Falls Highway Superintendent Neil Stoll will be retiring from such position effective January 26, 23, whereas Superintendent Stoll has accrued 10 days of unused vacation time as of the date of his retirement, and whereas the Board of Trustees, pursuant to the authority under New York General Municipal Law, Section 92(1), seeks to provide for the cash payment of the monetary value of such accumulated and unused vacation time at the time of Highway Superintendent Stoll's retirement from his position, with the village now therefore be it resolved, I should have zoomed in, by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Huzik Falls in regular session duly convened as follows. 1, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the cash payment of the monetary value of the accumulated and unused vacation time of Highway Superintendent Neil Stoll, totaling 10 days upon his retirement from his position as Highway Superintendent with the Village of Huzik Falls. I need someone to offer the resolution and second it. Thank you.
I'll second.
Bobby D and Bobby R. Further discussion?
I'm impressed we got the spelling right.
What's that?
I'm impressed on the spelling,
Did we get it right?
yes.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Make
yeah.
sure that.
We're looking out for you. Thank you, Andy. I'm very glad to do this, and instead of having 10 days of vacation time, we have 10 days of Neil being all around Kenny and showing him anything he doesn't know already?
A little too close.
Sorry, Kenny, you don't get a vote. It's a resolution, so we will do a roll call vote. You can
Okay.
again go down the line.
Trustee O'Malley,
Yes.
trustee
Decker?
Decker, I can't say,
Maybe, yeah.
trustee Shetty,
Yes.
trustee Alter.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Deputy Mayor Ryan, Mayor Allen.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Great. And finally, the position is an appointed position. It is appointed by the board. So I am looking for a motion to officially appoint Kenny Holbrook as the DPW superintendent effective the end of the workday on January 26th.
I'll make it. Or second.
Everyone is fighting over the motion as well.
Love it.
Alright, so you can give that to whomever, and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed or abstentions? Carries. Thank you, Kenny, thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Neil.
Congratulations, Neil, thank you, Kenny.
Fight
All
for
right.
improvement, you know?
Alrighty.
Oh, wow. That didn't take long. 30 seconds.
I've got
Well, that's why.
Alright, next item. Contract negotiations with the UPSEU, as I mentioned before, we have agreed to terms. If the board would like to, we can always move into executive session to have any discussions about the terms. I know we've discussed this already in the past, but the UPSEU has approved the proposed agreement unanimously. So it's up to us now. So do you guys feel like we need to move into executive session or we're good to move forward?
I'm good to move forward.
I think we're good.
Good to move forward? Okay. It's I'm really glad we got to this point. I think it's well due. It's a pretty significant pay raise, well deserved for our police officers, especially with the current state of things and the current need for police protection. So I'm very, very glad to be doing this. So that being said, I will move to our resolution. Number 6, approving the collective bargaining agreement between the Village of Hoosick Falls and the Police Officers Union, UPSEU. I've talked through a lot of the whereas, but the previous collective bargaining unit ran from June 1, 2019 to May 31st, 2022. Representatives negotiated terms and conditions for a successor collective bargaining agreement, resulting in a memorandum of agreement dated December 16th, 2022. Set forth conditions which will cover the bargaining agreement from June 1, 2022, which is retroactive, through May 31st of 2025, so this is a 3-year. And whereas the Village Board of Trustees has reviewed the terms and conditions of such memorandum of agreement pertaining to a successor collective bargaining agreement by and between the Village of Hoosick Falls and the Union, and finds such terms and conditions to be in the overall public interest of the Village of Hoosick Falls and the support of and approval thereof. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in regular session to the community as follows. 1. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls hereby approves the terms and conditions of the memorandum of agreement dated December 16, 2022 by and between the Village of Hoosick Falls and the UPSEU of the Village of Hoosick Falls, and further hereby authorizes the Mayor of the Village of Hoosick Falls to execute any and all documents necessary to incorporate such terms and conditions into a successor collective bargaining agreement between the Village of Hoosick Falls and the Union for the term June 1, 2022 through May 31st of 2025. Need someone to offer the resolution?
So moved.
And second. Thank you, Deb. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll move to a roll call vote.
Trustee O'Malley,
Yes.
trustee Decker,
Yes.
trustee Shetty,
Recusal.
trustee Alter,
Yes,
deputy mayor Ryan,
Yes, you can call me trustee.
time to me, Mayor Allen.
Yes. Alright, passes. We'll make sure to email Elaine tonight so that she can get
Yeah,
moving
she
on the
sent us
next
an email.
steps.
You
But
saw
can you
that.
can you email that
Yeah.
email the confirmation?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Appreciate that. Alright, thank you. board, we have the option now that we have introduced local law number 5 and we've had our public hearing and closed our public hearing to adopt it. So if the board would like to, I'm looking for a motion to adopt introductory local law number 5 of 2022. It will be adopted as local law number 1 of 2023, entitled a local law authorizing the issuance of temporary permits for outdoor dining and for sidewalk sale display.
I'll make it.
Myself and Bobby.
Alright,
And before you do that, we did neglect to put this in here, and I thought about it as coming up tonight. There was a short environmental assessment form, this is one that's subject to seeker. So your first order of business is to consider the adoption of a negative declaration for seeker,
Oh.
and that can be done by motion.
do you want me to bring up that file?
The EAF,
Yes.
you don't need to, when it's adopting legislation, you literally are answering one question
Okay.
on it, and then have a brief discussion of what the legislation entails,
Okay.
so.
So we need a motion.
Motion to adopt a negative declaration.
Neg deck for seeker. Okay. So, Dan, so moved.
Sure.
Bobby D is a second. So this is a motion adopting a negative declaration
Negative
for
declaration
seeker.
closing out the seeker review.
Alright. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstentions? Thank you. Carries. I do recall doing a bunch of those in the past, so, alright.
Everyone has to do a review for environmental impact.
It depends. This one, because it will allow certain things in the nature of land use, it is subject to seeker, which sets up the permit process.
Do we have a resolution for adopting this law? Or is it a motion? Is it by motion?
By motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we did make the motion, we have the second, correct? Alright,
Yes.
any further
Yes.
discussion? Just because it's a new law, can we do a roll call vote? That's fine, right, Andy, right?
Sure.
Alright, do a roll call vote.
Okay, trustee O'Malley,
Yes,
trustee Decker,
Yes.
trustee Shetting,
Yes.
trustee Alter,
Absolutely.
deputy mayor Ryan,
Yes.
Yes.
Alan.
Yes, and that was well done. Alright,
Speaking of the alley and outdoor dining, I noticed during one of the rainy days lately that, in that alley, the water's no longer going into the storm drain, it's going out across the sidewalk and into the road. I think
On John Street?
on John Street, the ground is settled and it's bypassing the drain and going right out into the sidewalk and into the road.
Oh, on Kennedy.
Coming down Kenny Lane.
It has to
You
be
mean on the John Street, between,
by,
Udell and that little,
Yeah.
that alley,
yeah.
right there.
Kennedy, yeah.
No,
The-
oh, is that still Kennedy Lane?
That stamped pavement is down about 3 inches or it hits the sidewalk, it just sunk.
So either it has to be lowered or built up on the other side there, I guess.
thank you. We already did this, correct? The leachate work, we authorized that already, what Dave was here?
Yes, we did.
Alright, but we did not do the bond resolution. We did review the structure, timing, and process. Let me bring up the resolution on, oh, it's over here. It's number 7, I think I have this set as number 7. Nope, just kidding, number 8. Oh, this is the hard to read one. This is for our bond counsel. Andy, please tell me I don't have to read all this.
You don't. The sum and substance is it does authorize issuance of bonds in the amount of $450,000 for the payment of the settlement with Fitzgerald Morris Law Firm.
Alright, do you want me to read this part here? Be it resolved, or just go down to the bottom?
Now, you can go to the bottom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, huge amounts of
I'm
thank
saying you
you.
can go to the bottom. This was obviously done by our bond counsel, but let's go to the bottom.
Yes.
It is in proper form. You have
That's
an
it.
exceptional bond counsel.
Yeah, he's great. So we need to this resolution needs to be offered and seconded.
I'll offer it up.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Deb. And this is a roll call vote.
Trustee O'Malley,
Unfortunately, yes.
trustee Decker,
Yes.
trustee Shetting,
Yes.
trustee Alter,
Gotta do what you gotta do, yes.
deputy mayor
Reluctantly, yes.
Bobby Ryan, mayor Allen.
I am a yes. I was against the thing. I said I was against it, but I would vote for this part if that's what the board said, and that's what we said. Yes, sir.
Question,
Yeah.
this was part of the water bill, for the water settlement, excuse me?
The, what's that?
Was this part of the water settlement?
No.
For the PFOA?
So, the village had this firm, Fitzgerald Morris Bakerforth, as their environmental firm from the beginning of PFOA until around April or May of 2017. The board, after the fact, disputed the bills. They sued. We went quite far into the process and ended up deciding to settle.
So this has nothing to do with PFOA, we have to do, how's that being paid?
That is something that we are.
It's a bond.
It's going to be a bond, so we'll be paying it off over a bunch of years, and we are going to budget in our normal budget that this comes out of our normal budget and isn't like an extra thing that hits, like the water bonds. It won't be a bond like that where we're putting more on every person. It's going to be budgeted in what we have to do. We're going to have to figure out how to make it fit, but that's what we're facing. The initial disputed bills, what was the total number they initially disputed? Was it 600 and...
It was $620,000 when the lawsuit commenced.
Yeah.
Plus 9%.
Plus 9% interest for 5 years. So 45% interest of $621,000, so you're looking about almost 900,000.
So if this had gone the full
way before any of
distance,
us were on the board.
if this had gone the full distance to court,
I'm just, cause I'm sitting there going, I thought that was part of PFOA,
it was,
It's
It is, but
related.
it's a legal
related.
counsel.
it's related but not related to, yeah.
Former legal.
Former.
Legal counsel.
It's unfortunately one of the many legs of the PFOA spider, but this is just one thing separate. And yes, this is one of the things that we're gonna be budgeting for to make sure it doesn't fall on residents as an additional cost we have to pay, so.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine,
no.
that's all good. We did the roll call vote, we're all set.
Yes,
Okay.
we're fine
Great.
on that.
Alrighty, moving on, number 4. Bobby Decker, we had some serious concerns about the intersection of Railroad Avenue and Elm Street. Reached out, Andy, as always, came through with a here's how we handle this in the immediate right now. And we have a situation where we have some concerns about the intersection of Railroad Avenue and Elm Street. We were looking for a way, because we know that adding stop signs is a local law change, which is a multi-month process at minimum. This is a resolution in order directing installation of stop signs at this location. Deb has offered to pay for the stop signs already.
Yeah, sure, why not? Because there's some
Just
cheap,
remediating it.
We do have extra stop signs around here, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, no, I've seen them. So whereas the village of Hoosick Falls has established the location, well, do you just wanna summarize the whereas, or?
Sure, there is an existing local law in the village which runs through all of the stop signs and identifies intersections and directions. Ultimately, the board should consider amending that to add this. This is just immediate order.
This is like an interim.
There is legal authority to do this. In going through that, you have identified this intersection. It does raise a safety concern in that you're gonna utilize your authority under the village law, the section of the B&T law, to order the immediate installation of the stop signs at the intersection of Railroad and Elm Street, and then you can read the now word.
Okay, so now therefore be it resolved and ordered by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in regular session, duly convened as follows. 1, stop signs are to be immediately installed on Railroad Avenue on the north side of its intersection with Elm Street and on the south side of its intersection with Elm Street. Looking for someone to offer the resolution?
I'll offer.
I had a feeling. Second, thank you, Bobby. Further discussion?
I just wanna let you know, Bobby, you know how we talked about whether it was Railroad Avenue or Lyman Street? Neil and I talked, I Google Earthed it.
One side's railroad.
No, actually, the Railroad Avenue is on both sides of the tracks. Because where Beatty's Carpet used to be,
Yeah.
is also Railroad Avenue. But Railroad Avenue, when you start going down, after Donna Parker's house,
Yeah.
it turns into Lyman Street.
Right, down
It's
that
one
little
Lyman Street is the first house on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right behind my house.
I wouldn't have believed it except I did Google Earth and then.
Years ago, there was
Went to the Google.
several sets of tracks in there.
Isn't that by
Sure.
Ryan Busher's old house at Railroad Avenue too?
Yeah, that's,
Yes.
that's on the other side of the tracks, yeah, that's on the, it goes on both sides of the tracks. It's strange, that's why I wanted to make sure he had it straight when Andy was gonna write up the resolution. So I looked it up on.
You're talking about this location right here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure it has something to do with, there used to be lots of tracks.
The bottom part there.
For
Yeah.
some reason, Google lists it as Lyman, but they're
But
inconsistent
if
with
you
how
look
they do
at
it.
it in
Bottom
the actual Google Earth pictures,
Yeah.
it lists it as
Oh,
Railroad
that's
Avenue, until you
funny.
get halfway
There's a
down
sign.
the hill, it turns into Lyman Street.
Yeah.
There's a sign up Railroad too, so.
That's so peculiar. But yeah, we've always seen weird things about the
Right, so,
Google Earth and the MapQuest.
but not that
and
has
stuff.
anything to do with it, but it's, I just wanna
Right.
let you know.
Okay.
It's the same way in the tax roll though,
What's
you
that?
know, I mean, the one that's on the top of the hill
Is
still
Lyman
railroad,
Street.
and as soon as you start going down the hill, it turns into
Heading
Lyman.
towards the sandbars, it's Lyman Street.
Yeah.
The
All right.
joys of 200-year-old villages.
Oh, you should see the UPS guys trying to
Are
find.
we doing a roll call on this?
We are.
Okay.
We are doing did I,
You just wiped it off.
what'd I do? Yeah, well, so we read it, it's a roll call vote, it's been
Okay.
offered and seconded. Judy,
Okay.
please.
Trustee O'Malley?
Yes,
Trustee Decker?
Yes.
Trustee Shetty?
Yes.
Trustee Alter?
Because I believe in safety for everyone, yes.
Deputy Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Allen?
Yes.
Way to go, teacher Deb. Big in there.
All right. What am I trying to get back
How
to?
long till you can get those up, Neil? Great end of your career project. Tomorrow afternoon? Oh, yeah.
Yes, Kenny.
Ask
Tomorrow
Kenny.
We'll do it the 27th.
Do we have stop signs in stock?
Okay, so we talked earlier about the Restore New York grant and how things were moving with there. We have a resolution supporting where is that resolution? Go on, mouse. Municipal resolution supporting the rehabilitation of One Center Street property and corresponding Restore New York Communities Initiative grant application. The full name is the Restore New York Communities Initiative grant, strangely enough. But we've talked about this and specifically the Village of Music Falls is interested in promoting community and economic development, historic preservation, vacancy reduction, village revitalization, business development, and neighborhood stability, which are all targets of the Restore New York grants. Whereas this fits within our comprehensive plan, I'm skipping ahead. This is the round 7 of the New York Restore New York grants, and whereas Jason Von Guinness will be financing the projects concerning rehabilitation of One Center Street with private and public grants and loan funding. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in regular session duly convened as follows. 1. The Village of Hoosick Falls supports the rehabilitation of the property located at 1 Center Street, as it is an important project for revitalization of the Village of Hoosick Falls business community and will provide economic opportunities, and is consistent with the Village of Hoosick Falls comprehensive plan. 2. The proposed financing for the rehabilitation of the 1 Center Street property is deemed appropriate, for the rehabilitation project imposes no burden on the village. 3. The rehabilitation project for the 1 Center Street property facilities effective and efficient use of existing and future public resources so as to promote both economic development and preservation of community resources. 4. The rehab of 1 Center Street property develops and enhances infrastructure and other facilities in a manner that will attract, create, and sustain employment opportunities. And 5. The Village of Hoosick Falls supports the Restore New York grant application submitted by the Village of Hoosick Falls in partnership with property owner Jason Von Guinness with respect to the rehabilitation of 1 Center Street property, and hereby authorizes the mayor to execute all documents consistent therewith. Thank you, Andy, for huge assistance on this. I need someone to offer and second this. Dan has offered it.
Second.
Deb has seconded. I know that Jason and Samantha looked this over and were exceedingly happy with this resolution. It's exactly what they need, so thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, Trustee O'Malley?
yes.
Trustee Decker?
Yes.
Trustee Shetting?
Yes.
Trustee Alter?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Allen?
Yes. Can you get that filled out tomorrow and scan that and email it to me, and I will forward it on to Jason
Yeah,
and
I have it in
Samantha.
here.
Awesome. Thank you. We have one correction. We're looking for a motion to authorize, we're looking for a motion to authorize the mayor to execute the application for corrected tax roll for the property 107 Main Street. This is a Woodsbrook property that the village purchased and is owned by the village and was never placed in the exemption section by the county. So this is just kind of a clerical thing. We have the documents in case you wanna see it, but it's just kind of a clerical thing, so I'm looking for a
I'll make-
motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, need a second? Anyone besides Deb phone for a second? Thank you, Bobby. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed or abstentions? Carries. Is there anything else from the Board of Trustees? Alright, hearing none. Looking for a motion to enter executive session to discuss personnel matters with no business to be conducted at the end, conclusion of executive session.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed or abstentions? It carries. We are entering executive session at 8:15 PM. Thank you all very much.